here. And here we go. Guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining here today. We are actually, Royal Legal Solutions is kicking off a tax service that we're combining with our asset protection so you can have the synergies at the very highest level of this game, guys. This is so important because if you've tried to coordinate things between your CPA, your bookkeeper, your attorney, you know the pain of having to do all of that on your own. And right now, at this moment, we're starting at Royal Legal Solutions to offer you guys that ability to have everything under one roof with professionals all underneath one roof that coordinate together to make sure that you don't have to worry about how all of those things work together. We're going to be able to take that on for you so you can do what you do best, which is finding deals and being able to make more money. With us is our founding CPA to Royal Legal Solutions. His name is Evan Kirkpatrick. If you don't know about Evan, he is one of the smartest minds and gems inside of real estate and taxation. He has a super huge experience level and wealth of knowledge that he brings to the table that I'm going to let him share about here and introduce himself and share with you guys those top 5 pro tips that he has for you that you can find right here in the comments. So guys, you're really going to want to check this out and learn more about Evan. So Evan, thank you so much for joining the Royal Legal Solutions team here. Can you give everybody a little bit of a feel for who you are, what you bring to the table, and how you can help them as real estate investors and entrepreneurs?
So I'm a CPA. I was born and bred and educated all in Central Texas, UT Longhorn. I've been in the industry for about a decade now and been spending pretty much all that time working with real estate owners and investors of different sorts, going all the way down to some of you guys are just starting out, been working with people that just own 1 or 2 houses and have a day job and how to take care of them, all the way up to people that syndicate 4,000 acre master plan communities. Been all back and forth in the real estate industry. And a while back, I really just got convicted that there is a desperate need out there to have that sort of knowledge and expertise brought to the table for your everyday real estate investor. You guys need that support and education and all that knowledge in order to help you minimize taxes so you have more money to do more deals. And you don't need to be worrying about finances and tax and all that other junk. There's all these distractions out there. You need to be having that time to go find good deals to do, to find partnerships, to find your network, to find what you're good at in real estate so you can use real estate to achieve your life goals.
That's awesome, Evan, and that perfectly segues into our pro tip number 1, which is about the education, guys. And it's what is it that you need to know? We're in this information era right now at being online, and guys, it's so easy to get lost in the masses of information that's out there and confused because some articles are actually for different types of real estate investors that may or may not be you. Evan, what is the important information or the ways that real estate investors should be targeting the types of information that they know is actually going to pertain to them, so that way they're getting educated in the right way and they're not going down the wrong, rabbit trail of information?
Well, when it comes to education, especially for tax purposes, you have to know a few things. One is know what your real estate venture is and what it isn't. Most of you guys, you're going to start out investing in, single family, duplexes, fourplexes, kind of small rental properties. If you are, you need to be one set of entities. You need to have one structure. If you're going to be flipping, you need to do something different. You kind of need to know, what you're trying to do in order to educate yourself fully. The great thing about education for tax purposes is that once you've started doing something in the real estate space, anything else you pay for in terms of education is fully deductible. So, I bought a house and I'm trying to figure out what else I want to do. You can pay for books, you can pay for classes, you can pay for anything you want. You can pay for consulting, coaching, you can pay for all that stuff and you can write it all off for tax purposes. That's the great thing. Once you get going in this space, any extra learning you do, you get that tax savings for all of it.
Yeah, I just, that what a brilliant insight into this, because I think what you're also saying too, Evan, is that saying no matter what type of real estate you're in, no matter what state you live in, that the education that all of our clients are going to be able to get through you and underneath your direction is going to be a complete tax write-off for them, because these are all things that are going to further the business. Is that right?
Right, absolutely. And, we're going to educate you guys for free too. I mean, that's what we're doing right now. And then when you talk to us, everything you do in that regard, you get tax deductions for all that stuff too. Our big thing is that we want to make it so you can capture every single dollar that you spend and that you may not even realize you're spending on real estate, and write all that stuff off.
Yeah, and what a great point in that too. I think that's also comes in as the education you need is proactive, right? It's what is the education I know of what's going to go forward into my life, and say, like, what are the things I need to be doing differently into the future that I can strategize about here today. So is that something that people can look forward to interacting with you about, as looking what are the proactive strategies that they need to be doing throughout the year to maximize their returns?
Yeah, I mean, because there's only so much you can do in retrospect. And we want to take good care of that retrospective piece. But after the fact, there's only so much you can do to change reality. The IRS is concerned about having you report what actually happened. And in order to do everything we can to reduce the tax burden and the complexity burden, we need to be involved starting up front, so that here are the things we can deduct, here are the things we need to be keeping track of, here's everything we need to know in order to maximize our tax benefits.
What a great point too. Those are the ways you're going to maximize everything, and you can actually plan your life around what are the tax benefits you're going to be able to have. But something that I've heard time and time again, people use is saying, hey, just because you filed your return for the last 2 years doesn't mean that those are locked up. I've heard of a lot of CPAs talk about saying, hey, you can come to us and we can review those past returns and see how you've lost money in the past. Maybe we can amend those returns and get you some of your money back, or show you where you could have done things differently in the past that would have saved you money had you had known about them ahead of time. Is that also something that you recommend that people do and that you can help them with?
Yeah, and the reality is that you get 3 years to fix any issues you have.
Wow.
And if you're not confident in what's happened historically, it doesn't hurt to take a look at things. There's oftentimes, especially if you're dealing with professionals that aren't super knowledgeable in the space, or even more so if you have been doing your returns yourself, and you're not sure that everything happened the way it should be, come talk to us and we can look at that and see if there's ways to get money back easily and quickly.
Yeah, guys, this is the number one way to be able to vet professionals, is make them demonstrate value to you up front. Whether it's your current CPA, your current attorney, whether you want us to be able to prove ourselves to you. I know that I've had these conversations with Evan, and I said, listen, I'm only looking to help people that I can show them up front and prove to them that we are the best at the moment of the first interaction. So that tells you guys that we're serious about delivering huge amounts of value to you right up front, to not just tell you that, hey, we're the best. I want to prove it to you, right? So come into us to be able to check on that, guys. And that all has to do with the education. You might be doing things perfectly. Wouldn't that be great to know that your current team is doing things absolutely perfectly for you? That's something that you can look for us to be able to help you confirm. And if they're not, then maybe it's time to look at, what do you need to be able to have the level of support to know that things are being done perfectly for you, and all I's are dotted and T's are crossed on the 360 view of your life. Because guys, that's real financial freedom, right? When you can kick everything to somebody else and then they take care of it for you, to ensure that your life is being taken care of and you don't have to worry about it. All right, so let's go to number 2, you guys here. Number 2 that we have up on the board here is travel. And what Evan's talking about here is keeping track of your mileage every time that you leave town. But I think it actually gets even bigger than that too, doesn't it? It doesn't have to do with where your gas expenses are coming from and where those credit cards get run to say that you're out of town. There's actually like proof pieces that are in there that get baked into where all these mileage deductions and whatnot come from. Can you speak a little bit about that, Evan?
When you're talking about travel, it's very important to keep good records. Statutorily, it's one of the areas that the IRS is the broadest swath to ask specific things of you. And there's 2 main areas we're talking about when it comes to travel. First is locally, when it's you driving your car around. We can deduct that stuff. For 2018, it was 54.5 cents a mile. But in order to do that and do it safely, we need to have good records of your mileage. This is very easy now, though, because we have apps for everything. Mile IQ is one that I frequently recommend. So you can put that on your phone while you're driving around town, going to deal with your rental properties. Just log those as business miles, and we can write all that stuff off against your rental income. The other is when you're going out of town, and that can be flights, hotel. If you're away from home, it includes half of your food costs, anything that involves you going out of town. We want to keep track of all that stuff because we can deduct it in some form or fashion. It looks a little different depending on your circumstances and if you're going to new areas or if you're going to areas where you already have properties, but we can get all those dollars back at some point, and often in that very first year, the same year you do it. So you got to keep track of anywhere you're going, anywhere that's doing anything to do with rentals. And it's not just looking at your own properties. If you go to conferences or networking or anything like that, that stuff is probably going to be deductible for tax purposes.
That's awesome. And there's one piece that I just went to, guys, just to highlight something on my personal life, is that I was actually in Nevis last week, or about 10 days ago, into a conference on asset protection. We're looking at how to do offshore trusts, offshore banking. That's really the holy grail of asset protection. It comes like, man, really something hit the fan. We got to get it outside of the jurisdiction. We need to set in bank accounts that are in other countries, because we want to make sure that nobody can touch our money, because we need to make sure that we're preserving our lifestyle. Those options are typically for people that have $2+ million that are looking to protect, because there's some expenses with that. But the really cool part about it is, one, I got a Nevis vacation as a complete tax write-off because I was down at the conference down there. And if I would have said, hey, I'm there for if I would have just wanted to say, hey, I just want to go down to Nevis, I wanted the whole thing to be a tax write-off. One thing I might have done if I didn't have a conference to go to is schedule a meeting on Friday with a banker. I'm there all weekend, and then schedule another meeting with maybe an attorney on Monday. And all of a sudden, that's called the travel sandwich. And that Evan was talking about, you can do these travel sandwiches where if you can sandwich in your travel on either days of your business that you're doing, then all of a sudden the whole thing becomes a write-off. So there's high level strategies to this, guys. When we know more about what it is you're trying to achieve, what your life is like, these deep knowledge about our relationship together, that we're going to be able to pepper in what is the information and the education per point one into what it is that you're going to need to know. So hey, let's talk about point number 3, Evan. We got the home office deductions. I know a lot of people don't take advantage of this as much as they could, given the new IRS rules. So how can people really maximize that as a real estate investor or entrepreneur?
So when it comes to the home office deduction, the standard is, do you have a space that you use exclusively as a workspace? Now, exclusively doesn't mean that you spend every hour of every day on it. I've been to Scott's office. I know he doesn't spend every hour of every day in there doing stuff. We have fun too. We look at the sports scores on our work computers. That's not what's at hand. But you have to have an area that is set aside for work purposes. And we can't double deduct or anything like that. But if you have that space, and most people that have more than just 1 or 2 houses are going to have some sort of designated workspace in their home, then we can essentially prorate out all of your home expenses based off of square footage of that area versus your whole house, and write off that percentage of, your interest in your real estate taxes, which is a bigger thing now that the standard deduction's gone way up in 2018, but also things like your HOA fees, utilities, insurance, security costs, pest control, lawn maintenance, like anything you can think of. You spend it on your house, we get that percentage based off that being your workspace. You get a lot. And alternatively, you can actually just take $5 a square foot, but most of the time that's worse than, unless you're living in one of those low areas. If you have that rental investor lifestyle, then we need to keep track of all this stuff and we can write it off.
That's right, guys. So just to underscore what Evan's talking about here, what he's saying is, hey, you can actually write off almost all a huge piece of your actual day-to-day living expenses by having a home office. And the IRS is going to allow you to elect one of 2 ways to do that. Either you can just say, hey, it's $5 a square foot, and that's just what I'm going to take. And then IRS says, okay, cool. That's what we're going to all agree to. We're not going to look behind the curtain at all of the other pieces that make up these deductions. Or what Evan's suggesting is saying, no, actually, you can save a lot more money if you itemize it out and you actually know what those numbers are. And guess what? If you have us do your bookkeeping, or if you're having these regular contacts with us, we're going to already know a lot of what that information is going to be. So we're going to be able to do a lot of that for you, so we can take on a lot of the heavy lifting to make sure you're really maximizing the returns. This is why tax savings is really an investment. It's an investment about being able to save money that otherwise would be taken for the government. And that's what really good tax savings should always do, is be able to find these optimal types of strategies where you're just really not exploiting the rules for your maximum benefit for what you're legally entitled to be able to do. And in fact, that's what IRS says they want you to do. So this is a great thing for everybody to take advantage of. And I'm really excited about point number 4 that we have coming up right now, which is about bonus depreciation. This is the number one things, guys. When you have a really good year, you're going to need bonus depreciation to come in there to save you from those taxes. So Evan, tell us a little bit more about who really needs to be concerned about taking advantage of bonus depreciation.
So if you're someone that already has, in particular, if you already have some rental properties and you have rental income and you're cash flowing, and especially, one of the big times you see this is people that have owned a couple properties for a while and they've had their rental rates go up, and then they keep investing. And so you've got all this cash, which is awesome. We love cash. But you also have
I love cash.
Tax income.
Cash is my favorite thing. Yeah.
You have all this income going with it, and you buy a new house. We can do what's known as a cost segregation study. We use a third-party software provider for smaller properties, and you can get a study with full audit protection. It's worked with the IRS on a number of occasions, that it essentially takes your one house asset, which would usually have to be depreciated over 27 and a half years, and lops parts off of it that can be depreciated much more quickly. And starting in 2018, for a few years now, we're going to have a situation where pretty much anything that's not part of that 27 and a half year asset class, we can write off 100% of it immediately. And there's all this stuff in the house, and a lot of it's outside of the house too, that we can write off in year one. And in a fair number of situations also, we can create a net rental loss in year one and use that to offset your other sources of income. That's dependent on your overall tax situation, but there's oftentimes a great number of ways to essentially use cost segregation and bonus depreciation as tools to reduce our overall income situation, get a lot of money back early on that can be reinvested in more deals.
And when you're talking about all those things that you can go ahead and depreciate all the way down in year one, does that include things like replacing the roof or replacing furniture in the house or doing capital improvements to the property? What are all those things? What's included in that category?
The big examples a lot of them are, the biggest ones oftentimes are actually exterior. Anything that is physically connected to the land but isn't permanently or isn't really part of the house proper. So we're talking about driveways, fences, anything like that. Those are big ones that can get depreciated more quickly. There's a lot of stuff in the interior of the house that can be. What's really good about these studies is that a lot of the stuff, if you were really just kind of trying to do it yourself, and you have to have good backup in order to support these things before the IRS. If you're trying to do it yourself, a lot of the individual things are kind of too small to make it cost efficient. But we have solutions now that we can work with to essentially get all the little stuff. And when you add it all together, it turns out, well, I bought a $200,000 house. Well, here's an extra $25,000 in deductions in year one. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a lot versus what you're trying if you were just trying to do it yourself.
That's awesome. So just to underscore that, guys, is what Evan's basically telling you in the nicest tax way possible is that if you're paying money on your rental property and you're paying taxes on that income, you're probably not doing it right. There's probably ways for you, if you use the right strategies here, that we're going to be able to do cost segregation and be able to use bonus depreciation to remove that income down and be able to avoid being able to pay taxes on that. So if you're paying taxes on that, I mean, you really got to look hard about saying, like, why? Why are you paying tax on that? There are so many solutions out here, guys, that you can take advantage of. It's just the average investor from 1 to 10 properties, and heck, even a whole lot more that I've seen even in the larger commercial space, that these types of strategies are able to get your income way, way down and save you just a ton of money on your taxes.
The best example I have of this is that a few years ago, I was working on a client that built probably, it was a $10 million big box strip center. It had a Costco and all sorts of other stuff. And in year one, we wrote off $1 million of parking lots.
$1 million in parking lots. Now, not everybody out here, of course, is going to be owning parking lots, guys, but this is the level of the game that we're playing at. We know how to do everything at the highest level. And what we're doing is taking all of those strategies, and then we're showing the average person, you guys that are out here that are, you're just starting out, maybe you have a few $1 million in net worth, maybe you're already at the high level, but it's how do we take the high level strategies and be able to equip you guys with the ability to be able to maximize those for your benefit. And that's where Royal Legal Solutions and with these tax strategies really comes into play to be able to give you the level and quality of service that's 10 times better than you're going to get from anywhere, anything that's local to you and anywhere else you're going to be able to find in the country. So let's go to number 5 here, guys. Number 5 is we're talking about the de minimis election. If you don't know about the de minimis election, you need to know about it. It's huge for you. So Evan, kick us off. What do we need to know about the de minimis election?
So a few years ago, the IRS essentially decided that, for a long time, there was kind of this informal, people would just write stuff off because it was small, but there wasn't really anything statutorily that made that okay. We just kind of did it as a matter of convention. But a few years ago, the IRS essentially decided, we're tired of that. So now if you buy, and there's a few exclusions, but in general, if you buy a physical asset that costs less than $2,500 per unit on an invoice, you can just call it a supplies expense. It's not even subject to depreciation. You can just write it all off immediately. Right now, 100% bonus depreciation covers some of the stuff, but what happens if that goes away? This isn't going to go away. 10 years from now, we're all going to be writing off $2,000 refrigerators in our rental properties and furniture, but it also covers stuff that would often get captured in that 27.5-year asset class. Because there's all sorts of stuff that can break in a rental property. And a lot of it is, we need to buy parts to replace it. And some of it you'd have to depreciate under the old rules. And now, no, anything that's less than $2,500 for a physical unit, we're good. So and the main thing you have to do to support that is it has to be consistent with your own internal financial records.
And so what does that look like? Is that saying that it needs to be consistent with your QuickBooks? Do you need like an app to be able to take pictures and receipts of these different items? What is the basis for actually accumulating the evidence on these things?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing there is you want your books to be consistent with what your tax return looks like. And that goes far beyond what we're talking about here. You can do to get them to go away and leave you alone. They perceive organization. Sorry to interrupt there real quick. But the IRS perceives organization is essentially a sign that, this stuff is probably right. Because generally the stuff where they see opportunities and where they see people essentially trying to cheat on their taxes is when they come in and they can't support any of their stuff. That just means they've made stuff up. If you can essentially go in there with a binder, if they ever ask you questions and be like, here you go, they're going to flip through it and be like, they might ask a few questions. They're going to be like, yeah, there's nothing for us to do here. Move along. So organization is our friend. Documentation is our friend. Because when they come knocking, they're looking for things that seem suspicious, and they're looking for people that don't have their act together. And us being prepared to deal with that just makes life so much easier in the event that you ever are examined by the IRS.
That's awesome, Evan. And something to just be able to tell you guys from my perspective as being a tax attorney, as well as is telling you guys about the way that these things play out. If you're really looking for a lot of people tell me like, hey, I don't want to pay taxes. What's the most aggressive things I can do on taxes? And I say, well, there's a lot of strategies you can use, right? And Evan's going to know about these strategies. I know about a lot of them. He knows a lot more than I do about what's going to be the best way to use those strategies. I can tell you when it comes into actually defending these things in front of the IRS, what Evan's talking about here is called audit protection. And it's a proactive thing that you need to do is making your bookkeeping correct and your record keeping correct. And there, it doesn't have to be perfect, but having it well documented is the #1 defense against your IRS audit. Because what it does is then they say, holy smokes, this is going to be a huge fight that I have to go through and a ton of work on what I have to do to be able to get $1 out of this guy. You have to remember from the IRS's perspective, you're a dollar figure. you're, as a victim of the IRS, you become a dollar figure to them. What they're looking at is how much money do they have to invest for their personnel to extract dollars from you. So just like we approach the game with asset protection as saying, we're going to have these entity structures in place to make it extremely expensive and difficult for anybody to ever pursue you, having the right record keeping and the right tax strategies in place is the way that you're able to make sure that you can maximize your tax benefits. You can really take these strong stances with what your tax savings are going to be and have the backup you need in case you're ever challenged. Now, I'm not an advocate for doing anything that ever breaks the law, ever. It's just never worth it, especially when it comes to your taxes. But what I am an advocate for is what are the smart ways that we can use the law and use the tax strategies to our maximum advantage while we know we're on the right side of it. And the difference between low-level tax strategy and legal strategy and high level is a world of difference, guys. I mean, I can't tell you the difference that I've seen from my experience of going and knowing some of the top tax and legal experts, just like I met down in Nevis, talking to James Verdun and all these guys that are like the holy grail of tax and legal and asset protection down there. The power of being able to bring all of that under one roof means that you have the synergy to be able to know that things are done correctly. So you don't have to worry about, hey, is this done right? Am I actually being too aggressive here? Am I being too sloppy with my record keeping or my bookkeeping? Because you have an organization that stands behind you to watch your back every step of the way. And that's why we are so excited to have Evan Kirkpatrick here on board with Royal Legal Solutions to help lead our tax division, because we know the importance of this. We know that this is what's going to drive you to be able to take you to the next level of what you want to achieve in your life. And I'm so excited to have him here today. So Evan, for everybody that's listened to this video and wants to reach out to be able to talk to you, I know we have a limited space available for how many people we're able to offer these high-level tax strategies to, and these powerful types of tools to. What is the best way for them to get in contact with us to be able to speak with you?
Right now, you can reach out to me via email at evan@royallegalsolutions.com. In the coming days, we're going to make it so that you can schedule consults, tax consults, along with the asset protection services. We're going to be rolling out essentially new tax planning, tax consulting, and bookkeeping offerings, consult-based offerings, and just all the different stuff that you need as you get started as a real estate investor, or if you've been a real estate investor for decades, in order to minimize tax and proceed with confidence as you go through, do more deals, make financial decisions, and plan for your future and try to achieve your goals.
That's awesome, Evan. And guys, reach out to Evan directly, evan@royallegalsolutions.com. Or if you want to call to be able to schedule a time, you can just always call us at the 512-757-3994 number. We are a one-stop shop now for everything that's tax and legal for real estate investors and entrepreneurs, guys. We have it all here in one house. Everything that you've read online that you're wondering about and how does that play into your current strategy, these are things we've looked at. We're going to be able to tell you a roadmap from start to finish of how this is going to work for you to be able to create the financial freedom that you're looking for, to have the confidence of knowing that somebody else has your back at every turn with all of these strategies, guys. So email Evan at evan@royallegalsolutions.com or call us at the 512-757-3994 number, or visit us at royallegalsolutions.com. And for everybody that's on Facebook Live, guys, this is where we're doing a lot of our talks. Please share these videos to be able to tell your friends about the amazing stuff we're doing. We are trying to give unbelievable value right now because we're trying to grow very, very quickly. So we're willing to give away amazing amounts of value at very affordable price points for everybody. So that way we can help as many people as possible, because that's what we're in the business of doing right now. So there is no better value than what we're doing at royallegalsolutions.com right now when it comes to asset protection and tax. So Evan, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. We'll be in touch here soon.